Welcome back to the Alberta Roundup. I'm your host, Rachel Emanuel. Outrage has broken out in Calgary as Calgary City Council has proposed new rezoning efforts. The city has entered week 2 of its largest and longest hearing ever as scrutiny of the city's proposed blanket rezoning strategy continues. The rezoning would amend land use bylaws in neighborhoods that currently allow only for single family homes, meaning that areas now zoned for only single or semi detached homes would be rezoned and allow for townhomes and row houses. Joining us now to discuss is Calgary Ward 13 City Councillor Dan McLean. Dan, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, and good morning, Rachel.
So one of the questions that I'm hearing a lot of when I talk to Calgary residents is they actually aren't sure how many properties are going to be allowed on a home. So for example, let's say you live in a neighborhood, there's a little old bungalow beside you. That bungalow could be sold, it could be taken down, and 4 new properties could be built. The city's saying it could be 4. The city's also saying that there would be allowed suites in each one of those 4 units, which would actually mean that there's 8 new properties on a home beside you, which before was just a bungalow with maybe a couple people living in it. So what's your understanding of what's actually going to be allowed under these rezoning efforts?
Yeah, I think the city has done a very poor job communicating this. When they say 4 units, that means they 4 doors that come off of a sidewalk, off a street. But you're correct. It actually includes 4 basement suites, but it's actually even worse than that. You could have 4 backyard suites or granny suites. So it's not just 4, it could be 8 or 12. 12 units on one property.
So one of the problems that's going to arise with this is obviously infrastructure. These neighborhoods weren't built, the roads weren't built to allow for all the parking. There could be problems with the sewage. There could be problems with the recycling at the road. Currently, I live in Rockland Park. I'm only saying that because we're actually moving shortly. Otherwise, I wouldn't let my viewers know where I live. But it's one of 5 masterclass cities being built across Calgary, and it's really incredible what they've done with the infrastructure here. There's a townhouse complex towards the end that was built to develop and have extra parking for all the people that live in the townhouses. As well, there's mass recycling bins, mass garbage bins to really manage all the people. But when we have a situation where you could have a bungalow beside you that's now turning into 8 units, what's going to happen to the infrastructure in the city? Because it just doesn't seem like things are going to hold up.
Uh, Good point. And again, it could be 12. Already in some of these communities that have started to densify, there's problems in the back alleys with, like you said, trash containers. And don't forget parking. Parking is a big one. They're talking about zero point 0.5 units, zero point 0.5 parking stalls. I had one with person present the other day, and they said, "Who drives half a car?" I mean, this is where we're at. So if you have, say, a single family home, like I said, 1 trash can and 2 parking spots, and maybe you could park in front of you if you have a driveway and a garage. But now this is going to be a problem with additional parking if you are in center block. Mid block is where we are going to see most of the problems. If you have a corner or on a busy thoroughway by close to a transit station, I understand there's some density is needed in the right places. But mid block in the middle of established communities, that's where people are having a problem, because not only with the parking, not only with the crowded trash containers, but like you had mentioned, Rachel, the infrastructure. Can we handle that many more toilets flushing? It's and who's going to pay for it? So yeah, there's some big issues here to reconsider.
Why doesn't the city use city-owned land to build some new houses instead of having people who have really invested their entire livelihood into their home? I mean, if you think about it, homes costing $500,000, people spend lifetimes paying off mortgages and their investment is being ripped away from them. They don't know what's going to happen to the neighborhood they live in. Why doesn't the city use their own resources?
Yeah, it's their biggest investment probably in their life. The uncertainty has created chaos in the market as well. The city does own lots of properties. We're the single largest landowner, obviously. And a lot of these properties are by transit stations and community corridors, and nodes, the transit nodes. So we should be developing those first. I agree with that completely. And then gentle density. So what's happening now, Rachel, is we already have what's called local area planning, where the city goes through each community and then they decide, okay, well, right here is where we can maybe add some more density, some row housing or some townhouses. But right here is not a good place for it. And here's where we can maybe put a shopping mall or maybe a grocery store or a convenience store. It takes a little longer, but it's well thought out and it's planned per community. We should just continue doing that. This is now blanket is what I consider just lazy, and you have to question the motives behind it.
Sure. When we're talking about questioning the motives, I mean, another thing that's been raised is it almost seems like this could be a cash grab for city property taxes. If you think about it, if you live somewhere, you're one house, you're paying property taxes on that one property. That's taken down. That's created into 4 units. Maybe Sweet, you said it could be up to 12. Now all those separate units are paying property taxes. The city is going to just be raking in the property taxes here. And we're talking about affordable housing. I mean, in most cases, this isn't affordable housing that's going up. Some of these townhouses that are being built are still going for $650,000. That's an insane amount of money for a townhouse. You don't even have a lot of land. So the city is just going to be raking it on the property taxes. Could that be a possible motivation for why they seem so bent on pushing forward this policy that it seems nobody wants?
Well, of course, the city is going to have additional taxes, and you're quite low on your 600,000 marks. A lot of these are a million plus. They'll take a $700,000 dollar bungalow. And again, this is where the speculation comes in. It's not just the city that's going to be raking in money; it's the inner city developers. I'm a capitalist. I believe in the free market, but this is still giving an unfair advantage. You will see developers coming in, buying up people's homes in certain places. And then what that does, it puts pressure on the person that wants to stay there in their forever home and keep that home. They have their equity, but it's not just that. They enjoy their backyard and their neighbors and their trees, and they move there for a reason. But then 2 or 3 neighbors on that block decide to cash out with the speculators, and next thing you know, their enjoyment of their property. Maybe they put up solar panels, and maybe they've invested in a garden. All of a sudden, they're moving out, and so it just destroys the fabric of those communities, which is again why people are upset about it. The affordable housing aspect of it, you'll see that was a really huge narrative at the beginning of this. Everybody's backing away. We've had multiple presenters, experts, from the chief economist from Calgary Real Estate Board, saying that this will not make homes less affordable. It's been proven in New Zealand and in Vancouver, anywhere where blanket density has been done, it has not lowered the prices of homes at all. And it's been actually the reverse. So now we're not hearing that narrative because it doesn't carry any water. It's more about building more supply. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
How likely is it that this policy continues to go through at this point? I mean, I feel fairly confident in saying Calgary residents, by and large, don't want this. It's a small percentage of people who support these policies, but the homeowners who have spent their lives, as we mentioned, investing in their properties don't want this. So what are the chances that we can actually reverse this and get back to some common sense?
So what we're going to be having is several more days of debate, and then we will debate amongst ourselves, or several more days of public hearings. And then that's when the councils will debate and put amendments forward. The first thing I would like to do is put it back on the floor to bring it to a plebiscite, to refer it back to administration, say this is 70, 80% of the population does not want this. Let's put it on the ballot, and let's come back and at least start working on something that is more tenable, that more people will support. We will see how that goes. I need 8 votes. It failed last time by 1 vote to take it to a plebiscite. So the odds are it might not pass this time. But again, Rachel, there's been so many people speaking against this. And so there's a few councillors that are really listening and have done polls in their own wards. So we need people to possibly vote with the public when it comes time. And again, not to go on too long, but there will be some amendments that some councillors will put forward to maybe try to water this down. Instead of maybe 4, 8, 12 units, they might make some concessions. But in my opinion, it's going to be, I can't tell you how people are going to vote, but it's going to come down to 1 or 2 councillors to see which way this goes.
And if this continues to go forward, I mean, obviously there's going to be some damage done in the time since, but we're looking at a municipal election next year. Is it possible that a new city council next year could reverse this policy if it is passed?
Oh, yeah. City council can do anything. If you've got 8 votes, it doesn't have to include the mayor, but at 8 votes, you can fire the city manager. You can reverse policies. There's a whole bunch of things you can do. So one way or another, this will be on the ballot next election.